I don't like not having the headphones on, but I think it looks better. You know what I mean?
I don't care.
I like to hear that. You're so fucking.
People like headphones. We can put them on if you want.
All right, in today's video, we are going to talk about Idaho versus California. I know that's like a 4-letter word up here, but this is important information because we get these questions a lot. Like, hey, what's the difference? What's the similarity? And I say a majority of the people that move here are coming from California. We get a lot of Oregon, Washington. I got a guy from Tennessee coming right now. So it really varies all over the country, but that's probably the number one. So if you want information on that, stick around to the very end. We've got a lot to tell you. All right, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the notifications bell. That'll keep you up to date on all of our latest content. And we put out a lot of content. Be sure to check out our podcast as well. That is an excellent resource on the community up here in North Idaho. And remember, if you're looking to move right now or 12 months from now, or you're looking to do a new build, don't do that to us. We can help you with that too. Give us a call, text, or email. We would love to help you guys make that smooth move right up here to North Idaho.
Idaho versus California. So the biggest thing that we get asked all the time is where are people coming from to come to move to Idaho? And California is probably one of the number one spots that people are moving from. So if you're in California, a couple statistics to know is that 17,000 people have moved out of California in the past year. It's the number one state where people are leaving.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. So, and Idaho just so happens to be one of the top states where people are moving to. I believe we have 26,000 people have moved to Idaho since between July of 2022 and July of 2023. And a lot of people wonder why. And I'll tell you what, there are some pretty neat similarities. And we're going to get into some of this, but I will say the most glaring similarity between California and Idaho is the amazing geography. I mean, Idaho and California both are amazing places if you like to be outdoors. And there's a lot of similarity for people that like to hunt, fish, hike, go to the beach, surf. They have boats, whatever else. This is a great playground outdoors for people.
Yeah, I got to jump in and say something because we get this comment a lot is the don't California my Idaho and blah, blah, blah. So I hear that a lot. People drop that comment on our YouTube a lot. And it's very frustrating to me. I'm not originally from California, but I did live there for a very long time. So I guess you could call me a Californian, but a lot of our clients that come here from there, they are super conservative. They are like Team America, as we call them, tend to be veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, all of these amazing people that are coming up here. So if you live here and you're watching this video and you're like, I don't California, blah, 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 just know that the people that at least we are helping move here are invaluable assets to this community. And I think it's a great thing. So I just wanted to put that little caveat in there.
Yeah, and there's definitely a growing number of people from California up here. And when you ask people when they're up here, they don't want to see this place change. In fact, to live in California, I can tell you to watch things change and become so bad around you and not be able to make a change, not be able to, it almost feels like your vote doesn't matter. And we've seen Idaho almost get redder and redder as people have moved up here to try to protect and preserve the way of life that Idaho's had for way longer than I've been here.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, the state of Idaho is becoming more red if you look at the way people are voting. So predominantly the folks that are moving here are voting conservative. So, if you're afraid of that, that is a reality. You can check the stats yourself, Google it, whatever. That is a fact. All right, first up, cost of living, Idaho versus California. I'm pretty sure I know who's going to win out on this. I lived in Northern California and it was probably not as expensive as Southern California, but still rather expensive. When I moved up here, gas was in the 5 something range. That was back in 2020. I got here and gas was $1.89 a gallon. And I would take pictures of that and send it to my old coworkers just to rub it in a little bit. But that's an excellent example of the cost of living, right? We've got pretty much everything is cheaper up here. The only thing I've noticed that's not necessarily cheaper is like kid activities. So, sports, youth sports, things like that, gymnastics, whatever. I've found that those tend to be pretty comparable, at least from where I lived. But overall, groceries, gas, what else? Car registration, insurance, pretty much everything is lower than California.
So the next one is tax policies. I'll say this, Idaho is a very fiscally conservative state in comparison. I felt like when I lived in California, every single thing that I did, there was always another tax. There was another way to pull dollars. Every time I saw a tax initiative that hit the ballot, it was yes, 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 yes. Idaho is very different in that. We had quite a few tax initiatives that came on our ballot in November or just recently that got voted down. I think there's a culture up here that the money that goes to the government, they need to figure out how to use that best to serve the people and not continually ask for more money. There's absolutely times that that's needed. However, we think that fiscally that happens to be something that gets asked for a little too much. So you don't see a lot of that. Another thing that's really nice is a lot of people have asked me when they're buying homes recently, they've looked at the taxes on a home and they said the taxes have gone down significantly this year. Well, in the past 2 years, we've had a budget surplus in the government. Brad Little and our government, our state government, has implemented ways to put that money back to property owners in terms of tax credits for property taxes. So I know that my taxes went down about $1,000 this year. That's significant. I only pay about $2,800 a year for property taxes on my home. And to see that go down that much and to get a credit for that was pretty impressive. So the tax policies up here are definitely different. You know, state sales tax is 6%. I think down in California, it's like 8.75 now or something, 9.
Yeah. Newsom's trying to raise it up even higher.
Not good. And then the other thing too, one thing that we talked about with DMV is I found when I traded in a car here in California, you can sell a car and every time you sell it, you're paying taxes on it. Well, up here, when you trade in a car in Idaho, you actually get a tax credit. So say your car is worth $30,000. Well, that's going to be an $1,800 tax credit towards your purchase. So if you're looking to sell your car or trade it in, wait till you get here to do that. Take advantage of that tax credit.
Next up, housing market. This is a big one. It's obviously near and dear to our hearts because that's what we do for a living up here full time. Housing market in California is extremely high, as we all know, right? Especially when you end up near some of those bigger metropolitan areas, the Bay Area, for example, it's ridiculously overpriced. Even in parts of rural California, like where I came from, it is extremely overpriced. So now there's a caveat to that, right? Because in Coeur d'Alene, home prices have gone up quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 years to the tune of 30%.
Quite a bit.
Ish.
They've gone up quite a bit.
Which is frustrating to some people, right? You know, we all wish we moved here 10 years ago, but we didn't. So too bad. But you know, looking at the values across the board, I would say, you know, Idaho in general is much lower when it comes to the housing market, and there's still room for growth up here. So if you're feeling like you got in too late or, you know, you missed the boat on that, we are what's the word I'm looking for? Projecting slow and steady growth for the future coming forward, because there is a steady stream of people that still want to move here, which is putting buying pressure on the market. And there is limited inventory at sometimes. So that buying pressure is going to slowly, hopefully not drastically, keep increasing the prices of the homes up here and keep the market healthy and strong.
And something to keep in mind too, when you're comparing prices, I mean, apples to apples, the other thing that you deal with in California is really, really high HOA fees. I mean, I've heard of some as high as $800 or even $1,000 a month. Certainly there's a lot more facilities in a lot of those places where you have tennis courts, pools, everything else. The truth is we don't really use pools that much up here because we got so many lakes and so much recreation to do that people have a tendency to go to local parks and go to local areas and lakes and everything else. But HOAs up here, a lot of people call us and say, I want no HOA. Let me taper your expectations on that because I'm in a heavy HOA and we pay about $280 a year. They maintain all of our parks, all of our walking paths, bike paths, all those green spaces, and they've never called me for an issue. You know, we painted our house. We were supposed to tell them. We never did. Nobody ever complained. There's a very keep to yourself attitude up here. If you come try to paint your house bright red, somebody might say something. But for the most part, HOAs up here are very, very minimal in terms of cost as well, which a lot of people need to consider when you're buying a home. The next one is population density and growth. Hey, we're growing. And just like anything else, when you grow, there are growing pains. One of the biggest growing pains that we're dealing with right now is density, especially on the roads. In order to build new roads, you need taxes. In order to get the taxes, you have to have the people. And in order to get the people, you have to wait for them all to move here. So having the growth potential having the growth that we did, the influx of people has given us a bigger tax base, but we are behind and there will be probably 3 or 4 more years. You can see a lot of projects going on Highway 41 they just finished, which was great. They've opened that up. They're working on Highway 53 right now. There's a lot of work going on to decrease congestion. But yeah, if you moved up here and you're like, man, this is really hard to get around town on some of these 2-lane roads right now, that's because we had a big influx and things are getting better. They're opening up roads. They're making it better to where people can get around. But that is something to consider in terms of population density. The other thing too is that we don't have a huge area to grow from. A lot of that is restricted by CC&Rs. If you go just north of Hayden, then you're going to find that you run into a lot of restrictive CC&Rs that will not allow subdivisions less than 5 acres, less than 10 acres. They don't allow high density housing. So the opportunity for there to be, stacks of apartment complex and everything is really limited to downtown and kind of central Coeur d'Alene and certain areas like that. So the density we just don't have. I don't know how much room we have necessarily to grow, to be honest.
I would say, I feel like another 50 years of growth. Realistically, you know what I mean? There are some large developments being planned. The
Post Falls,
Cortair, that'll be a Coeur d'Alene.
Yep.
I think they annexed that area. That's 1,200 homes, but it was over 20 years or 30 years or something like that. So there's long-term growth, and the prairie will get eaten up with housing, and a lot of that will be tracked home. But and maybe they'll sneak in some apartments and some high density stuff. But like Dave said, like there is a limit to it for sure. And the ideal goal for a lot of people is to get here and buy in the outskirts where you can get that 5 acres and it's controlled and it will never be divided.
There will always be 5-acre plots that you can get that you're still only 10 minutes away from resources, which is phenomenal. You get that space, you get kind of the seclusion, but yet you can get to a hospital, you can get to a grocery store, you can get to your kids' sports and schools within a matter of minutes. It's not that far away.
Yeah, and just to touch on density again, the population of Idaho as a whole is approaching 2 million. It might have just passed 2 million.
We have more cows than people.
Yes.
I saw that.
So when you look at it that way, we are still a really low density state. And most of that population is in, the Boise area and southern and eastern Idaho and North Idaho. In the middle, there's not a whole lot of population at all. I think the population of Ada County, I think is 800,000. So that is a huge population density down there in southern Idaho. Up north, Kootenai County is maybe less than 200,000, I would say.
I think we're about 250.
Yeah. Okay. So just not a whole lot of density. People moving here from places like California, they get here and they're like, worried about traffic or whatever. And they're always like, oh, this is nothing. This is nothing. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. We kind of want to keep it that way too. All right. Climate and environment. In my opinion, having grown up on the northeast coast of this beautiful country, I absolutely love 4 distinct seasons. And Idaho certainly has that. You've got spring when the wildflowers are blooming and all the flowering trees are going wild, and summertime, which is super intense and sort of short, to be honest, but really long days where you soak up that sun and enjoy the time. And then you go into fall, the leaves change color and it's like the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen in your life. And, you start to get that crisp air and the first snow's coming, and then the snow hits and you've got, beautiful wintertime. It's almost always a white Christmas. There is nothing better than that to me.
Yeah, it is. I love the 4 seasons. And here's the thing is that they kind of alternate. It's not really like clockwork up in Idaho. In fact, we're mid-November right now. What are we, November 14th, 13th, something like that?
14th.
And we haven't had snow yet up here. So we maybe have some snow coming soon, but truthfully, we're sitting around the 40s right now, which is pretty comfortable throughout the day. But we've also had Novembers where it snowed completely, and we've had snow on the ground from November to March. So it is kind of unique in the fact that it's not the same every year. The other thing that people, when we talk about climate and environment, people that haven't lived in the snow don't understand that when you have snow and when you consistently get snow every year, you're set up. The community is set up for that. I mean, just from plowing streets to keeping schools open to everything else, life doesn't just stop when it snows. I mean, I still see kids riding their bikes to school when it's snowing. So life does go on. You can get around. It's not a big issue. Down in California, when it used to snow, it was the end of the world. Nobody could do anything. But absolutely, when we do have those seasons, I mean, things still continue.
Yeah. And, to touch on a few other things, there I go, touch my finger again.
There it is.
Apparently. I do that a lot. It's so dumb. The weather in San Diego, no one will argue, is like the best weather on Earth. Okay. It's not like that here. You will have moments of that. You'll have days like that, but it's not like that up here.
We have 2 months of San Diego.
Yeah. That's about it. Yeah. We don't get nearly as much snow as Tahoe. I laugh sometimes because people up here are like, California people don't know how to drive in the snow. I'm like, yeah, go talk to somebody from Tahoe, bro. They got 64 feet of snow last year. We ain't even close to that. Right. So, the climate, and it really, California is such a vast state. It varies so much, right? Northern California, where I come from, it was either insanely hot or raining, and that was pretty much it. So, I don't miss that at all. That's for sure. But I would rather have cold and snow than cold and rain all day long. So, just something to consider, looking at the climate up here and really like, what are you after? what's the lifestyle you're looking for? Something for you to figure out.
Okay, the next one is job market and industry. Look, I'll be pretty quick and honest with this, is the fact that there's not as much infrastructure up here in Idaho as there is in California in a lot of places. It's a little bit of a throwback. We see a lot of people that come up that have, blue collar jobs, or they have a trade skill, do very, very well by starting businesses up here. Small business is huge, but there is not a whole lot of high paying job opportunities up here for the workforce. So people that don't have skills, and there's not a lot of technology driven stuff up here. There's a lot of people that work in that industry because they've moved here and they are remote, but it's not based out of Idaho. So there is a lot of jobs up here, but in terms of the pay comparison, very, very different than California.
Yeah, they tend to be hospitality, travel, tourism type jobs. Construction is huge, of course. So if you have a skill like that, you will have no problem finding work. There's some manufacturing. There's some local, gun manufacturer in place. Our buddies over at Unknown Munitions. You've got buck knives. I got my new buck knife right here. Look at that.
I gotta get mine sharpened.
Made right here in Post Falls, Idaho.
Same.
Yeah. So Buck Knives is here, and a lot of other manufacturing. I'm skipping over it, of course. There's ammunition manufacturers up here. So there's work to be found. And, honestly, we have a lot of people that live here and then work over in Washington in the Spokane area because the pay tends to be a little bit better over
Especially there. Public safety. There's a lot of public safety fire guys, law enforcement that still like that type of activity. They like to be busy, and they work over for Spokane County, Spokane City, the Valley, whatever else it is. So lots of opportunity over there for sure.
All right, next up, outdoor recreation. California, being so vast, has maybe they have a speed on that. There's a lot of outdoor. You can't surf in Idaho. I guess you can wake surf. So
can we just talk about paddleboarding? Paddleboarding is awesome.
Okay.
If you don't own a paddleboard, go to Costco, get one. They're $400, and you will spend all summer on that thing.
Are you joking?
I'm serious. Paddleboarding. I love paddleboarding.
I hate paddleboarding.
I know you do.
It's the stupidest thing.
What,
it's the most inefficient means of transportation ever devised. Anywho, what I'm talking about. T-shirts are coming soon.
I hate paddleboarding.
No, it's going to say something like Satan worshipers.
Talk about recreation.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. California, being so vast, has any amount of recreation that you can want. I get that. But Idaho has freedom. So there you go.
Is that how your recreation? Freedom. You really can do a lot out here. Snowboarding, skiing. I mean, we've gone over this in other videos, but honestly, there is no lack of being outdoors. In fact, so much so that in California, I tell people this all the time, for recreation, I paid for a ton of my entertainment in California. I paid to go to Disneyland. I paid to go see the Angels. I paid to go to a trampoline park. I paid to go to the movies. I paid to go just all these different places. You paid for your entertainment there. It's indoors. It's all year round. Here, you're going to have to change up what you're doing. It's usually not all year round. It's usually seasonal. And if you don't like getting outdoors, this is how recreational it is up here. If you don't like being outdoors, a lot of people have left Idaho in the past 2 years that moved up here from California because they don't like snowshoeing, hiking, fishing, paddleboarding, they don't want to do these things. They don't own a boat. They don't want to spend the time doing those things. They just want, the easy entertainment. That is not the lifestyle up here.
Yeah, you can find it, but it's certainly not as easy as other states.
Nope.
Yeah. One more thing. Idaho is 60% public land. So I can't tell you how many properties I go to show, and it borders national forest, borders state land, borders timber company land. Thousands. There are spots 5 minutes outside of Coeur d'Alene that you can get into the Coeur d'Alene National Forest and literally stay in the national forest until you hit Montana. You can easily get lost out there. I don't recommend that, although we have a great search and rescue team. But the point is, if that is your thing in outdoor recreation, and you side by side, four-wheeler, dirt bikes, hunting, fishing, whatever, hiking, huckleberry picking, you can just hit that national forest lane.
Morel mushrooms.
Morels are so good. And you can pretty much do whatever you want out there. You can shoot, you can hunt, you can whatever. It's all there, and it's not super regulated like California is, which can be very annoying for sure.
And here's one of the other things. So you spend so much time outside in North Idaho. The number one country for happiness, I believe, is either Norway or Sweden. I can't remember which one. Go look it up. But they attributed it to the fact that they have a culture of being outdoors and in the environment. Man, if you're listening to this and you can't tell me that being out in the forest where it's quiet isn't peaceful and takes you away from the daily stresses, man, I'm telling you, getting outside is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Next one is education. Look, public education sucks. I don't even know how to say that with enough intensity, but public education sucks. And that's just what it is. That is a global thing. Do my kids like the schools better up here? Absolutely. Do we feel like there's a better intent and better opportunities for our kids in the schools up here? Absolutely. Is this the type of education system that looks for government funding and wants to? No. Okay. No.
Here's a question.
In fact, what?
Are there any litter boxes in the bathroom?
No. Okay. First person I see that says they're a cat, I'm throwing a freaking collar on them and a leash and pulling them around. So, and you look at places like Lakeland School District, they have signs on the school grounds that say our teachers are armed for the safety of our students. It's very conservative in terms of the school districts, but understand that school districts are still a government organization, regardless of how conservative that organization is. So is it still public school? Absolutely. We do not have a huge university system up here. We do have the University of Idaho. We have North Idaho College, which is a branch off of that. Over in Spokane, you have Gonzaga, you have Eastern Washington University. But the truth is that, and our kids actually go to a private unaccredited, our boys go to a private unaccredited school over in Washington just because of how conservative it is. And it's a little more hands-on and not
so much sitting at desks all day long, like the traditional teach them how to be a factory worker stuff.
Right. So it's not, you're still going to get the general education that comes out of most systems, but is it more conservative? Is it really based on the people and the teachers and the lifestyle that's up here? Yes, there's a massive difference in that. But education is still education when it comes to public education. I don't know how else to say it.
There you go. A short answer is neo-Marxism has not taken a huge foothold up here like it has in California. So there's that. And so if you want your kids to avoid that kind of nonsense being indoctrinated.
And what's the thing they had, the color identity changing thing? They were pushing it all over the country. Color to the Camille. What is it?
No.
I can't remember. Everybody probably watching it like, you guys are idiots. Can't remember. It's not up here. Okay.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Damn it. I'm just going to mull around here until it pops into my head.
Whatever. What is it called? The color thing.
No, are you talking about race?
Yes.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory. It's not here.
It was on the tip of my tongue the whole time.
All right, next.
But one more thing. On the education tip, homeschool up here is huge. There are charter schools. There are lots of religious-based private schools. So there's a lot of options other than public school. But like we said earlier, public school is far superior to most other states.
Huge homeschool.
Huge
community.
And, it's not like the weird homeschool kids. Like when we were kids, like you meet some of these homeschool kids, you're like, wow, this young man or woman can look me in the eye. And they're like extremely functional
Somebody
people.
that's 50 years old, watching is like, I was homeschooled.
Yeah, and then, I'm talking about.
Sorry.
But no, things have changed quite a bit. In fact, we homeschooled our kids for years too. And there are co-ops up here so you can, homeschool your kids, get them together with other kids, several times during the week for socialization and, hanging out and doing whatever. So lots of options up here. That's just what I was trying to say. All right. Being a former trooper, California Highway Patrol, to be accurate or exact, traffic is very big and important to me, right? So in California, obviously, especially in these larger metropolitan areas, the traffic is insane. You've got a freaking 16-lane freeway or whatever. Screw that. We don't have any of that up here. What's the widest road we have? Like 2 lanes in each direction? 3 in each direction. There are a couple spots with 3.
Yeah, a couple, not many.
So, and that's like Interstate 90.
Even 90 is mostly 4 lanes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's coming. They're making it 6 all the way from Washington to Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, that'll be the end goal. But anyway, point being, you don't have that tremendous traffic density like you do in most places in California, right? A lot of the driving up here is rural driving. There's a lot of gravel roads up here, which they're well maintained and nothing to be afraid of by any means. But just something to consider. So if you're looking at it from a traffic standpoint, there is no place in North Idaho where you will sit in traffic for 3 hours ever, unless there's some horrible crash on the freeway, maybe. But pretty rare. So if that's one of your big concerns, you're not going to find that up here.
All right. The last one is regulations and lifestyle. Look, I tell people this all the time. 4th of July is a huge thing up here, right? We actually burned down a couple homes this year from people being irresponsible with fireworks in neighborhoods. Now, this sits close to home because one of those homes that burned down was actually the parents of a former deputy up here and also a friend of mine from church, her parents. That sucked. I'm like, that is just something I don't want to see happen anywhere. Do I think personally that now we should ban fireworks everywhere else, that there's not an inherent risk to it? No, I don't. Because the truth is that people are going to do dumb no matter where you are. And government regulation is one of those things that takes away your freedom. People need to be responsible. I 100%. I'm glad that, those people are actually, they're getting served charges and everything else for what they did. That is their responsibility. But no, I do not think that because one person does something wrong that everybody else should lose their freedom to do that. So what I'm getting at is that regulation in Idaho is not really something that a lot of us want. So I tell people when I was in law enforcement, they would ask me like, hey, my friend's shooting off fireworks and it's July 2nd. They shouldn't be doing that. I would ask people, do you want more or less government control in your life? If you do, then call the cops for everything. When you have a dispute with your neighbor, when this isn't right, call the cops. That will just increase the government involvement in your life, lead to litigation, lead to laws that are going to restrict your free motion. This is something that I have on my phone right now. I don't know how accurate this is. So yeah, don't fact check me. But it says 125 years ago, you didn't have to ask permission from the government to collect rainwater, go fishing, own a property, start a business, build a home, get married, hunt, own a weapon, cut hair, sell a product, protest, or sell food. All of which things, there is some sort of regulation as to whether or not you can do that anymore. Now, I'm not getting into whether or not some of those regulations make sense and really protect us all as a whole, but Idaho does have a lifestyle of freedom. If you're going to move up here and you're going to be the person that calls on your neighbors every time their dog barks, or every time they break an HOA rule, or every time that somebody's speeding down the road, you're probably going to find yourself in a very uncomfortable environment up here. If you have a problem with somebody, we deal with it the old way. You go talk to them and you hash it out. You figure it out. So when we talk about regulations and lifestyle in Idaho, we vote no on just about darn near every single regulation that you can put in place. People need to take care of themselves and take personal responsibility. There's certain laws that exist, but I'll tell you even this, even when I was a cop up here, I would have people that I would pull up next to, and you have to wear a seatbelt. It's a law in Idaho. It's not a moving violation up here. I can't stop you for not wearing your seatbelt, but I can cite you. And I would pull up to a stoplight and people would roll down. This is sensitive to him because he was a CHP for a long time. And we all know that it's important to wear your seatbelt, but people would roll down their window and I'd roll down my window and tell them to roll down their window, and I'd see them put on their seatbelt and they'd say, sorry. And I said, look, this is your life. This is your responsibility. I'm not going to pull you over. I'm not even going to give you a ticket for that. It's your job to take care of yourself and live your life. So do things responsibly because that's the way that Idaho expects you to do it.
I got a couple of things. We used to call those nanny laws, by the way, because it's like the government being your nanny on that. And it's like, you know, so up here in Idaho, you can ride a side-by-side or a four-wheeler on the city street. You do need to get it. Well,
it has to be registered. It has to be insured and everything else. Yeah.
You don't need to wear a helmet while you're riding a motorcycle. Not a good idea, right? But you can do that.
Your head open,
that's the nanny law, right? You can ride in the back of a pickup truck, which
love it.
Awesome. If you're camping, you know, you throw the kids in the back. I don't recommend going down the, you know, any major roads like that. Right. It's not a good idea, but I've seen that crash. It doesn't end well. But, you know, you can do those things. And that's the idea here is like you're responsible for your own life. And honestly, that's the way it should be. The government doesn't need to intercede in all of these things that really aren't hurting anyone else other than yourself, potentially. Obviously, kids, right? Put your kids in a seatbelt. Don't be dumb.
Yeah, I will cite you for that one.
Yeah. One thing we didn't have on our sheet that we haven't touched on yet that is very near and dear to many people's hearts is also regulations and lifestyle. Second Amendment rights up here. I say Second Amendment rights and someone always makes a comment. It's not, it's a God-given right, whatever. Okay, whatever.
God-given right is a constitutional.
People get weird about it, okay? All right. But up here, the gun rights are very, very friendly towards the residents, right? You can own, possess a short barrel rifle, suppressors, all of these things. You do need a federal tax stamp. There are some exemptions, like if you have a suppressor that is built in the state of Idaho and does not leave the state of Idaho, you can possess it without a tax stamp. Still federally illegal, so do that at your own risk. But, you know, those things are amazing, right? You can buy all the ammunition that you want. In fact, Black Sheep has pallets of it on the floor. You can go buy as much as you want, and no one's going to check you on that. You don't need a super secret ID or card to get it.
If guns make you uncomfortable and you live here, we will help you sell your home so you can leave. I'm all about it.
Great pitch.
Absolutely. If guns make you uncomfortable, call us and we will help sell your house and move you to Washington.
Right. And we'll take those guns off your hand gladly.
Where it's safe in Washington because there's no guns.
Yeah. Good call. On that note, let's end it. Great tip. Hey, if after all of that, Idaho still looks like the place you want to end up, we would love to help you make that move. I implore you to reach out, text, email, call, whatever. Our contact information is easy to find on the YouTube channel. We do this a lot. We help a lot of people relocate. If you are super liberal, please don't call us, but there's probably someone else that will help you. We tend to really enjoy the relationships that we build with our clients, and we are unapologetically American. So honestly, if you're that way, you're probably not watching this channel anyway. And I know that does limit us, but really, I love the people that we work with. I think we can all speak to that.
And know that if you give us a negative comment, he won't let me read it.
I won't. Dave gets real worked up about that.
So I just want to reply. And also, if you disagree disagree with what we say, we'll throw this out there. I'm going to throw this out there more and more often.
Yeah.
If you would like to be on our podcast because you disagree with our point of view, we'd be happy to have you on here and have a good conversation with you.
Yep. We won't yell. There'll be a full emotional detachment. We can talk it out. Happy to do that anytime. So reach out. All right. Thank you guys. We will catch you on the next video.
Bye.